All right, everybody, welcome to today's webinar. My name is David Tolkien. I am the Director of Business Development here at Shop-Ware. Very excited today to have Jeremy Glasgow, founder of App Fueled, with us, who's going to be talking about mobile apps in your auto shop and trends in mobile apps. Very excited to have him here. He's one of the sort of the leading experts on apps in our space. So it's truly a blessing to have him on our panel today. A little bit about Jeremy before I pass the mic over. Jeremy is a husband and father of three and the CEO and founder of App Fueled. He has a BA in business administration with finance from Northwest Nazarene University. And since 2008, Jeremy's been building apps to help other auto repair professionals, skyrocket their profits, accelerate car count, boost retention, just grow their business overall, general from an app perspective. He's always on top of the ins and outs of the latest in mobile tech branding strategies, that are being used by Fortune 500 companies. And this is really what drives him and his team forward. In this webinar, he's going to cover real life strategies on how to get your customers to download your app, keep your app on their home screen, use your app, and continue to use that app even after they leave your shop. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to pass things over to Jeremy, let him introduce himself a little bit, and we will get this webinar going. Jeremy, you have control.
Okay, let me get our presentation to full screen. How are we doing, David, with that?
We are good.
Okay, so thanks for the robust introduction. It is an honor.
I can't see your screen right now. I can just see you, but I don't know.
Just see me.
Yeah, you got to share.
One second on Zoom. Okay, can you see my screen now?
No, I don't think so. Are you sharing at the bottom?
Yeah, in Zoom.
There you go.
Okay.
Now I can see your screen. You just got to go into present mode. There you go.
Okay. Sorry for the brief interruption. And David, I do appreciate the introduction to Shop-Ware users. This is going to be a really, I believe, a unique webinar in that I'm speaking to people I know who have already made really a next step choice to already put things into the cloud, to already be a step ahead, to already make a great software decision. And those are the kind of conversations where apps play well in that space, where we're not worried about having an app that's going to struggle to make a connection at some pretty core levels. So this conversation, I think we can go quick. We can go really dive deep. A lot of people would know me if you've seen me around the original mobile app Ninja, but I almost think that's been a little bit in jest, as I've heard that said. Perhaps if I were to claim ownership, I'd like to think of it as diving into something almost with surgical like precision, specifically on if we were to look at the title of this webinar, right? We're talking about strategies to use a mobile app to grow profits. So the precision there is not really into the app itself, although we're called App Fueled. We're not all about just the app, but it's how to fuel your brand with an app. So it's an angle that I dive into quite often. I love to talk to shop owners about this topic because of the breadth of what it means to vehicle owners today. So on that point, if we like to say, get your first app like a pro over here at App Fueled. So we know that most shops now, you guys are aware of programs that do texting, emailing. Most people have a website. These are all common marketing strategies that are taking place that we must have. And so now we're entering a realm. Fortune 500 lead the way. I'm addicted to what they're doing. You might already be as well as a consumer. We're all addicted to what's happening in an app. Well, we want to see if we can help a shop that's ready for that wants to say, hey, I want my first app, but not just my first app. I want to do it like a pro does it. And on that note, why would we even be connecting retention and profits to an app? How are those connected? And in our opinion, it doesn't start with apps at the shop level, David, and users out there. It doesn't start there. It's more of a conversation, and this is where I like to get precise. It's a conversation about the vehicle owner. So although we are the #1 app builder platform for our industry, it is apps for vehicle owners, not an app built for the service bay, not an app built for the technician. This is an app built for your vehicle owner. And with that in mind, then we can kind of take a step back and look at that retention question and say, if as an industry, retention is a hole and we want to plug it, we want to fix it, we want to solve the problem of retention. If you have it, some shops are doing well, some are hitting 80-90% retention with or without an app. They've got some things figured out. Now, for our industry as a whole, I believe we're just residing slightly under 50%. So we've got about a 49% retention rates. That means over half of our customers, we're going to see one and done, won't see them again. And I believe that an app, because of our vehicle owner, really all consumer addicted nature to apps, I think apps bring about a new problem. It's apps have taught us to have shorter and shorter attention spans. Apps have taught us to never remember a phone number again. Apps have taught us we don't even know website URLs. We don't even pay attention to them. Apps have taught us to be singular focused. Now, all of those things, if we don't play into it, what we bring about is just allowing someone else then to play into that, right? And so that's what I'm going to be kind of counterbalancing today in this conversation is, as we move to kind of the overall state of apps, we're gonna start there, and then we'll drill down. We'll go through six questions that can help us get to the bottom of this to see it as the counterbalance. We know the consumers in this state, they're addicted to apps, and now that if we want to say, okay, how are we going to counterbalance the move? How are we going to join the fight? That's what we're going to be addressing today.
Jeremy, one of the things that I often hear from shops when they're sort of getting into this whole conversation is that they're saying like, they'll never be able to get the customers to download their apps, and like that they're having a hard enough time getting an email address. How are they going to get them to download an app? Why is that? What's your advice to them? Is that because customers don't want to use an app to interact with a shop? Why such pushback, do you think?
Now that is a pointed question. I love it. It gets right to the heart of, and I'm going to be mentioning that a few times, David, through this. It gets to the heart of a particular point I call the fail point. So where is it that an app fails? So that question gets right to that. But let me back up just right before that question and say, well, is it even true that customers are using an app, whether or not it's yours, right? Let's not even get to that point yet. Is a customer using an app at all to find you again, to re-find you, or are they using some other mechanism? And last reported, it's up to 86% of searches begin on a smartphone. So we can start there. That now we still haven't quite identified, well, where is the search on a smartphone? So, but it's that high of a number. So already things like phone books, things like newspaper ads have taken a back seat. Not that they're not still there, not that maybe that shouldn't be a pursued avenue, but that's 14%. Everything else is 14%. 86% is happening on the smartphone. So, well, at what levels generationally is that? And it's across all generations, 81%. And now I think even in the last 12 months, I don't know if COVID pushed that, we're up to 86% of American USA residences have a smartphone. So they're there. Now, the using the app part is where it gets a little tricky. I like to look at it as a screen share number, and that's I'll touch on that a bit later. But just briefly, screen share, 90%, exceeding 90%. Now, I think it's 91% of our time on our smartphone is in an app. So of the 86% searching on a smartphone, 90% of our time, how do we transition to that search? Where were we during our day that we then decided to go, okay, we've made an active search or some function to reach out because our car needs some type of maintenance or repair. So those, and where this gets highlighted, I think at the next level is we're so addicted now, and some generations may be worse or better depending on your perspective. 87% of millennials. I highlight this one just to say how dominant the use of a smartphone is. 87% of them won't even go somewhere without it. So they won't find themselves, and what that tells me is they don't want to be somewhere where they don't have access to the tools that help them run their life. And that, now those tools that help us run our life, that's an app. I mean, it's proven 90% that is an app. So what now, some people say, and Dave, let me hit your question a little more specifically now on, would they download an app or use an app for My Shop though? And so I want to comment on that. Even if the customer was trained either by default or someone told them to, not to use the Google Maps app, not to use the Facebook app or the Yelp app, but just instead to open the Safari or the Chrome on their Android. Either one of those actions is still clicking on an app icon. So it's not that they wouldn't use an app, right? That's not the question. They're already doing it in every format possible. They're still clicking on the pre-installed Safari app on their phone. So it's not of will they, it's they do. Now, maybe more specifically, and we'll keep going through that, how do you entice them? How do we solve some of these problems that it's perhaps your app that they would open and not those other ones?
Yeah, I guess my question then becomes like, if they are using apps to find a shop, what are the apps
Yeah.
that they're using and why are they using those particular apps in the first place?
Yeah, well, we wouldn't have any kind of app conversation at all, right, David, if I didn't bring up Google and Facebook into this conversation. And specifically Google, there's no reason for someone not to use Google right now. Google dominates the realm of search, and they're doing it in more and more ways, whether it's being voice ready, whether it's being integrated through an ad you saw on other sites that had sponsored Google ads. Google is there. And whether you go right to the Google Maps app and whether that was your first move, even other apps are basically powered by the Google My Business information anyway. So Google is just, they own it. I don't know if it's because that spot is so locked in our brain that it's Google. I mean, talk brilliant marketing, right? They've owned it, they're killing it. And then Facebook, what are they doing? Now, I don't know if that's the long-term answer, Facebook, but whatever that app is, Facebook is just the perfect example we have now of this generation of USA, and it's probably more than one, that says we're not going to miss out. We fear it. We fear missing out. TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, well, of course, Facebook. That fear drives us back to the app, that next notification. And that's why I use the word addicted. And you guys choose the morality of that. Is that a good addiction or a bad? I'm not going to comment, but that addiction is there. So there you have this addiction. You've got customers 90% of the time. I think the number is something 312, 315, something like 315 access points a day where we're checking our phones. I mean, I tried to track that on I couldn't even keep track of my own subconscious checking of my phone. I was just trying to see that, kind of do a little self-reflection. What is that? Is that true for me? So talk about some access we have. I mean, it depends on how you look at that. We're either toast in that we're never going to be where the customer's spending their time, or we're going to find ways to leverage that. I see it as a great opportunity to leverage an opportunity that is new, well, new at least in the last 5 to 10 years. This is a new addiction that we have in a new way. And why apps? I mean, so I talked a little about Google and Facebook, but apps would be something that have trained us something new too. They've been brilliant in their simple user interface mechanism that they have to force action. So usually when you're there, you're thinking easy swipes, easy scrolls, simple next steps. We transition between activities so seamlessly. And an app, talk about the power of something like Google or Amazon that starts to bring together our laundry detergent is now showing up on time, or Walmart, you're now checking in and the groceries are coming right to your car. I mean, we're just talking, these apps have brought about new ways for us. And it's taught us this, hey, doing business with the big brands is easier in an app. And why would they make those choices? Why are the big guys, the big tech, whoever they are, why are they pushing this? Where is the evidence of, not that it's being used, but how is that helping them? Well, there's a lot of things to that, right? Automation is usually, you pull it off right, is usually lower cost than labor. Right? If you were to have your staff attempt to walk a customer through all of the digital advancements that Amazon gets a customer to make, there's no Amazon staff that reached out to you and prompted you on how to use the 50 different ordering components inside Amazon. They just subtly along the way, the app prompted you to become a more app engaged user. And apps are brilliant in that way. They take us to a place where I think we've got great potential. I've got hope.
So I got to ask you this point, Jeremy. So like when you think
Yeah.
about how entrenched and ingrained consumers are with their existing apps that they're using, and they're like, I'm using this for this, I'm using this for this, like it seems like a daunting task, honestly, for a small business owner to be able to change that consumer habit.
Yeah, and that is where, wow, you could just fall off a cliff with that question, David. You could sort of just let that sink in and go, it's over, right? Eventually my
I think
shop's
that's how
gonna
some shop owners feel, or that they're just like, this is an insurmountable task, and
yeah.
why are we even having this conversation, to be
And
honest?
that is I find that to be an interesting thought, because let's play that out. Is it true that 5 years from now, if the average American consumer wants their car repaired or maintained, are they going to be in Amazon doing that? Those are some fair questions. Is that going to be the touch point? Is Amazon going to take the industry? Not meaning like buy up all the independent shops. That's not what I mean. But is that consumer transaction going to be so seamless, so smooth, and Amazon's going to find that one extra way to make profit, or Facebook, or someone else who has the consumer mind already, right? They already own the mind. So I hear you. I think it is daunting for sure. And you might even say, on the one half of the battle, it is lost. I don't pretend for a moment that when we talk to our clients to say, you know what, if you can just get your customer to get your app, they're going to stop using Facebook, Google, and Amazon and Yelp. But that is, I mean, that's already lost. You're not winning that one. You're not, your app, amazing, right? No matter how amazing your app is, you roll out the next Google for your shop, you're still not taking away Google, Yelp, Facebook, Instagram, Amazon. It's there. So assuming that would just kind of give that half away, then let's say the half that I believe where you can really kind of dive in as the nimble guy. Now you can come in with what you're good at, and you let that be leveraged in your app. That's where you can separate yourself. That's a battle that can be won. And I'd love to spend most of our time on that question,
Great.
David. And on this slide, on this slide right here, that's where we could say, how is it possible to actually disrupt a behavior? And so if our goal was to disrupt them, never seeing our competitors' ads again, never going to Facebook again, we've already agreed, not possible. So let's instead think what is possible. And I start with engagement. It is possible. We can do it, whether it's a membership card, whether you write it on a napkin, whether you collect their cell phone and now you're sending text reminders. You can intuitively prove to your customer that it's better to do business with you a certain way. Now, I don't believe as an industry we're caught up yet with, say, Starbucks on how you do it through an app, but we're good at it. We already do this as an industry. We already have, coaches already prompt us through this. How are the ways that you can express to your customer that you have value, that you're premium, that you're not a discount shop, you're not just throwing things away. You can make this an experience where customers going to be engaged with your brand, knowing in return that what they receive is something they couldn't get at the Walmart auto center. So that engagement is completely impossible, or it is possible. And I'd like to say, don't assume that you have to give away things for free to get it. I almost like to think of it, it's a little bit of a pendulum. The harder it is to get something from your customer, to the type of engagement it is, the more value you might have to present to get that action to take. Or maybe the law of inertia is a better way to explain that. To get that first move, that first step might take a little push. So sure, you might have a new members get this special thing today at checkout. Sure, you might have something just right there that pushes that action. But it can't stop there, right? For it to be a totally disrupted thought. So let's fast forward now. Let's fast forward 3 months. And we know we're not taking away them on Google. They're still spending time in Facebook. They still might see a competitor's ad. Well, that's where this is a ladder I've been putting together, and it's driven 2 years now, just core app development, 42 different components of an app that it tries to entrench into your customer, assuming you can get that download. And we're going to talk about that later, right? You have the app download, it's on their home screen. Now, 3 months from now, how is it possible that your little app, your little brand caught their attention? Well, I believe that's a ladder. A lot of people will use the phrase journey. I like to think ladder because I love to picture customers climbing rungs and knowing that they're getting better access to your shop, more value, better conveniences. And towards the end, we're talking they're going to be the VIP promoters you might have. They might even have simple, seamless tools in your app that now they're doing referrals and they're texting off codes and referring their friends and family because of that seamless app experience. Of course, bundled with many, many, many other things. I mean, this is retention is a topic that is hard. I mean, with or without an app, there's many a lot of factors to that, right? It's that 3 months from now, if they're even giving you a second thought, it's because you'd already checked off many other boxes. You had a great service advisor. You really actually did what you said on their card. It came at an affordable price and in good timing. So the app is a tool. It's not the answer, and that'll become clear, I think, as we kind of work through this. But the main point is, if an app was to say drive them to do something different, then those values are going to have to be there. And I like to divide those into let me get to our next screen, into a 5 category, at least 5 incentive categories. There's more, and there's combinations, and there's gray areas. But by looking at the categories that are inside an app in a way that an app could seamlessly keep prompting them to climb the ladder, and you divide it into these 5, one of those, and I think that's really, David, because of the Shop-Ware users that are out there, I have to consider value. This particular point, think online vehicle management, really stands out to me, right? You already, if you're a Shop-Ware user, you've already made that choice to get your customer information and service history into the cloud. So what we like to think about is well, imagine if you're taking that same choice and now you're adding an app extension to that, and you're presenting the value to your customer. So where you have a customer, you've got them start, they climb the first rung, they're in your ladder, they've got your app, and now they're going to connect to the service history, and they're gonna take a moment to maybe set their preferences, set their profile, perhaps add a little cool picture of their vehicle, right? The types of things we're all used to, right? When we're using apps, we're used to being prompted to do things that make it easier the next time I come back to the app. We don't assume when we download an app that this is the last time we're using it. If we know that the brand treated us right, we're gonna go, oh wow, this is actually gonna help me later access my account. Perfect, I'm gonna keep this one. So that's how I believe. Again, remember when I said we're not getting rid of Google and Facebook? We can't, they're gonna use it anyway. But now we have this new thing that Google and Facebook can't give to your customer. They can't give that value. Well, can't say can't, who knows? Let's see where that goes. But as it is now, at least for the next 5 years, I would imagine someone is not going to sign into their Google account or their Facebook account and find their service history. They're not going to find their upcoming appointments at your shop in there. They're not going to see their upcoming rewards and their rebate dollars. They're not getting that from the other apps. So now you've brought something new. You have, rather than relying on reactive, right? This hoping that the text gets them at the right time before they've chose a competitor, hoping your postcard gets to them. They already have this pre-built in their mind, knowing, hey, I did these steps. I engaged. I took a few seconds, maybe 2 minutes, adjusted a couple things. You've now earned a spot in their mind. You've earned 2 minutes of time in their mind. And that's something that Facebook and Google can't get on that particular point. So own that. And that's like I said, I could just keep going. That's the part where this gets exciting. We really can knock it out of the park. We can deliver different things in the app specifically back to that singular focus. They're going to know that this app singularly was for their vehicle care. And they could add multiple vehicles in there, see multiple service history in there, kind of have a great picture of their experience at your shop. Hopefully, of course, you guys are hoping the same, right? You've now locked them in for life, the life cycle of a customer. That's what we're talking about as we talk about a ladder. And I get to there's a point, David, in a marketing guide. It's called the Ultimate Auto Repair Marketing Guide, where I talk about this fail point more extensive. I've mentioned it just briefly, but let me just touch again on it here. On a fail point of not getting the app adopted right where it counts, and that would be at a proactive check-in and check-out experience. So I'll be diving into that deeper, but think about that for a moment, right? You've got if you just use the app reactively, so you don't bring it into your workflows, right? You didn't bring it into your checkout process. You just had one. I kind of like to just visually say that what that app is a toy. It's a toy that makes you look cool. It does make you look more favorable. Your brand impression does rise. So there's still gain to be had. And by our case studies we've done, you're still going to get up to an 8% adoption rate. Barely anyone goes past that when you're just reactively having an app. So I'm going to get into that.
8% of your customer base, that's what you're shooting for?
Well, that's what would happen if you just wanted your app as a toy, right? And what I mean by that is just reactive. You just got one, maybe you hired us, we got you one, we put you in the App Store in 30 days. You've now got a cool app. It's maybe a little banner on your website, maybe a random email goes out, but it wasn't brought into your customer experience. And it didn't raise their perception of how doing business with you is better in it. Then yes, that 8% is the adoption rate. And I call that a fail point. I'll explain a little later how 8% is not bad, but we can take it on at a different level too. Should say here we've got a case where if we can get the app there, and apps are everywhere, we know our customers are using them. I wanted to hit a question now very targeted for us. Was that really the case? Is it really the case that an app would be wanted, actually preferred by our customers? And I honestly can't answer that for your customers. I mean, we have statistics on a big scale. I've been sharing some of those, but this, I'm going to give you one of the surveys we did, but that really is. I really encourage this to check that out. I mean, if you're going to spend tens of thousands of dollars and maybe months in development to go get your own app, is to take this on and say, wait a minute. Well, maybe ask the question: in what ways would you use an app? So maybe even if it's a small survey of your customers, attempt to find that out and to see if the answer is there. Now, I admit for me, I didn't take my own advice, and that was a huge learning curve. For some reason, I just assumed maybe it's because I'm addicted. I mean, back to the keynote speech, Steve Jobs, 2007, introduced the iPhone that would change the world. Right within months of that speech, I'd had a light bulb moment. Go, okay, apps can be used in our industry. I mean, I'd already been with auto repair shops since 2004, working on kind of a combination of digital and old school marketing. But when that speech came, and we were right at the beginning stages, for example, what Apple did, they brought in 500 apps on that first iPhone launch. So the big guys already had a leg up. They were included in the announcement and the revolutionary hardware brought to our world. And you had 500 brands included in the App Store. Talk about killing it and already being ahead. And on top of that, the big guys then said, well, we're not only going to build the hardware, now we're building the apps. Then we're going to make these things so brilliant, they're going to be intrusive in every area in your life. Then we're going to throw in ad revenue, where our job is to essentially make it's, I don't know how to say this too well, but their job is not to really be on your team. They are attempting to maximize the time that your customers spend in their apps. They're trying to maximize ad revenue. So those go hand in hand. So their goal is not to see if they can help your customer find your app. Now, yeah, they've got the app stores, and yes, we've got a great platform to build apps, not knocking Apple or Google here. We have the chance to catch up, but it's not geared that way. Everything is slanted against us. And so this question of, well, would our customers even want ours, is going to have to be answered, maybe specifically for your customers. here's how we answered it. We asked them 3 very specific questions. This was back in May 2020. We hope to do this every year, is just to get a general consensus. Where do vehicle owners sit today? And I took one of the 3 main questions we asked, and the way this shows up when I first looked at this pie chart, of course, I was with a little bit with glee because, well, we build apps. We're excited about this. I mean, we're positioned to help shops that are ready to make this move. But what caught me off guard is how, first of all, segregated the other answers were. I mean, you have a website coupon at 12%. So it kind of tells me that if you're transitioning, you can read into some of these, and I've attempted to go deeper on some of this, but it tells me that, well, if they found your website, unless they remembered your URL, they were still starting in Google Maps, then clicking on over to your website, then from there, maybe showing the website, the coupon from your website. So they still have a journey that takes them through an app. So it wasn't as if any of those. So when I looked at those 4, the loyalty card, to me, I like that one in terms of it represented what I think an app could be. A loyalty card is now an app, is an old school loyalty card. Because that's proactive. They might have had that in their wallet, in their purse, or in their glove box. So that one I love because maybe, just maybe, the card was so well done. There was such value packed into your loyalty program that was going to preempt anything else that they did. It was going to put you in that card, put you at the top of mind for that customer. And that's where I like to talk about apps and go, okay, look, if the customer's wanting, 76% of them want this. Okay, wait, maybe we can transition the old school loyalty concept and put that into an app. We're going to get best of both worlds. Now, some of our clients have used actually a hybrid approach. They have a, think printed, really a point of sale piece of some kind, and that collaborates with the app. So it either prompts the initial app action or they both go together. Either way, you're hitting the preemptive spot in the customer's mind. And one of the surprises here, there were the other 2 questions, texting, right, has been just hit up and down from every angle, how important texting is. And I don't discount it. We got texting built into our app functionality, but it didn't come in even as number 2 in the other 2 questions, which were based on appointments and then also based on how to access previous information from their shop. So texting didn't even take the 2 spot. Apps took 1 each time. And then, of course, I'd encourage you guys, at the end of this, I'll be talking about this. I put together a playbook. So everything I've mentioned here, go back to that loyalty ladder, or the way that I've debunked the 5 common myths why we don't have apps, for most small businesses don't, or even this survey here. All of that are individual booklets in this playbook. I'm up to 14 steps now, I believe it is. So you'll get an access at the end of this to that playbook. It'll be an ebook that can be sent to you. I'm going to transition over to a spot here. And David, I think you'd kind of mentioned you might have a question here for me.
Yeah, I just, the thing that I hear most often is just like, okay, like if I decide that an app is good for my shop, like what am I talking in terms of cost, development time, like level of effort required on my end? How much research, like what do I have to put together? Like what does it take to put something like that together?
Oh, now that is a fair question. Putting together this booklet in the playbook was probably the most challenging point for me and my team. We were trying to look at this a little bit more globally and say, okay, well, there's a lot of app developers out there, right? There's a lot of people that are building from the ground up every time they're building an app, and it does take months. I mean, we've been at this realistically here with our latest framework. We've been at it since 2014, and it just evolves every day. We're on version 7.4 coming up. So for that case, right, that has been, I think, the traditional, and it's almost unfair, and I debunk that myth. That is the traditional approach when we think about app development. And that's just not, I mean, thank goodness that's just not true anymore. We've found that in specialized industries like ours, you've got a company like ours who takes a process that where we know that typically we know the type of customer you have and the type of goals that you set out, because we only build apps for auto repair shops. So in light of that, we're able to say there are turnkey app builder platforms out there where you don't have to spend months and hundreds of thousands of dollars like the Starbucks. They got the budget for it, whatever. They're going to build their own custom thing from the ground up. Well, we don't all have the luxury of millions and months or even years. We need what we need now. So putting this together was fun. It was fun for our industry. We've learned a lot along the way. Apple's thrown us curveballs. Google's changed things. We've had to stay up to speed. So what we wanted to cover, and I've got it here in this checklist, is to make sure that if you're going to have not just your first app, right? And I write here for epic success. I mean, not just your first app, but an app that gets started, gets downloaded, kept, open tomorrow, used 3 months from now, and not deleted. All of those are what we believe are a comprehensive app vision. That's different than just hiring an app developer, scoping out an app project and dreaming up a day your customer might use it. This is really how to avoid that process, the learning curve, and just to jump right into an app built specifically for vehicle owners to connect with their shops. So I do detail some other just kind of general examples of that, but I think you'll find some clear direction there on cost, on timing, on really the Apple hurdles that every small business has to jump now. That in some ways it seemed as if they were trying to force us out. Well, we stayed in, we're in the fight. And I've now put together a cheat sheet that's also included in the playbook, how to jump through the review board, still get your own app anyways, and make sure it's your brand, your icon, your image in the App Store. And if I was to say, we're not alone in this. It's just that maybe we don't have the budget and the time. I mean, think Amazon, okay, or even Starbucks. I start with the Amazon example. If they couldn't have figured this out, if they didn't figure this out by now, I believe Amazon wouldn't even be near half the size it is today. And here's what they figured out. They figured out how to transition a PC browser-based consumer. That's what we all were 20 years ago. But that was our primary spot. And then we just watched the numbers year after year, especially when the smartphone hit. It was already happening pre-iPhone. But after that, the numbers then became staggering. Purchases, transactions, swipes, everything is in the mobile app and it's on their smartphone. And so Amazon subtly, right, moved their model to the app. Netflix did the same thing, right? We had the DVDs showing up in the mail. And then it transitioned to now it's a digital download. Then it transitioned to even manage your queue on your phone. So, or Starbucks, they first rolled out their rewards program, beautiful gamified program. In fact, we emulate some of those things rather than giving away profits, right? Think fun. We've made these apps fun for your customers. They're going to earn stars as they engage in your app. Like, well, we just emulate how Starbucks did that. They told us that, hey, if you want the customer to come more often, buy more coffee when they do, and think about you first for coffee, then bring a little bit of, you might call it joy, shine bright in their life. And so they have a star program with thousands of ways. And I use that almost more as an addicted app user than I do an addicted coffee user, although I am both. As I look at that model, I say, okay, we can do that. We have those same points that we can hit on in our industry. We could encourage a customer to pre-book an appointment. We could encourage a customer to check out and give us a thumbs up on their way out the door. We could encourage a customer to add a card on file and join our annual recurring membership program. We have these same things, right? We're not that much different. Just we're 10 years behind. So let's get caught up, and that's what an app can help us do. And on that point, right, as I go into those 1,000 ways, that's where when we look at the ladder, it'll all get connected, right? It's where you've got these 42 events where we're trying to get that customer to climb the ladder. I think here, David, did you mention you had, I think, a specific question for us here?
Yeah, I'm just so, I guess my question is, like, if a shop has tried an app, but they really they've done it before, and a lot of people that I speak with have had an app before. They've had one in their shop, they paid for it to develop, or they use some sort of service, but they couldn't get their staff to promote it. They couldn't get their customers interested in, couldn't get them to download it. Like, why should they try something again?
Okay. Yeah, and that is definitely the learning curve. That is where I feel like a lot of time has been wasted, and we're probably the guiltiest party. mean, I spent those first full years, four full years, 2014 to 18, where I'd actually put this on paper, put this into a marketing guide, put this into a loyalty ladder, where we were just almost dabbling. And I use that word lightly. Of course, we've been engineering apps for 6 years, but what we were dabbling in is that was there a secret sauce? Was there a silver bullet? Was there something you could just do where all of a sudden customers would download your app? And it turns out the answer is no. So I had kind of just thought back again, like I move ahead on hunches often, right? Oh, an app, I want one. Let's do this. Our industry needs one. Let's do this without even doing surveys. I never surveyed shop owners. I never surveyed vehicle owners. Just jumped in, got my team working hard. And so that's where I don't want to mislead anyone to think apps are not a silver bullet. And yes, for people that have proven that themselves and they've already lost their first app, or the first developer went out of business, or I mean, it's just a transitional market. App developers are also fly-by-night people, right? So are these guys around for the while, or while are they integrated with my existing shop management system? There's some real questions to be answered. But even after all of those are answered, right? Even after the top 10 checklist of how to do it right, you still get back to, what about that move? And through case study work, through really diving into this and looking at numbers specifically in our clients for over 4 years, I started to see a trend, and then I nailed it down in 2018, put it into a book. And it's this 1-2 punch mobile app download strategy. And it is brought in at checkout, in that your advisor preempts the conversation. So, and I get it, guys, advisors are asked way too much. And Shop-Ware, you help with that. You make workflow for shop staff easier. So thanks for that, because I think we play into that. We don't want that workflow to increase. We don't, they're trying to take care of the customer. Why are we adding in more tech steps? So keeping that in mind, if our goal was to minimize staff action, but maximize customer engagement, that's what we're working on. And I believe you can do it with that simple advisor or that check-in moment. However you're doing it, you're preempting this conversation in this way. Here's just one example. We have a VIP program so that when you check out today, you're going to get ABC. So it'll take you about 60 seconds. I'm going to fire you over the app download link right now, or have your QR code on your counter. But hey, this is that's not a forced moment. You don't force anything right there. You're preempting this checkout to go, I want this to go smoother. Like the customer wants out of there. They want their keys. They don't want to spend extra time. They don't want to, dink around at checkout. They want out and be gone, right? Car fixed, running smooth. That's why I pay you guys. So if you preempt it, now they've got this maybe an hour, maybe 30 minutes, maybe it's 4 hours where they've got to kill. If they're in your lobby for even 10 minutes, that's plenty of time to already become an app VIP member. And they were preempted with it. Now at checkout, they're loaded. Then at checkout, you've got the one. So that's the punch one, punch two, almost a roundhouse kick. Then you present to them the checkout experience of a service ticket as a member and as a guest. And here's where I completely reinforce what coaches say. Don't be a discount shop. So yes, your members get a better value, more convenience, but it's not because you're giving profits away. It's because what you did is you made your guests pay more. Here's your opportunity to be a premium shop for those one and done guys who gouge you, right? They're coming once, they want the best service and you'll never see them again. Well, here's your opportunity to have a guest experience for them. If they're not willing to take the steps, spend 2 minutes, maybe put you at the top of mind, then they should be paying a premium price. But your members who are willing to do that, and you preempted them and they agreed and they spent 2 minutes, they've got your icon, boom, you got them, right? Now they're the VIP member. They walk away with that just a little bit better experience. So it really is being a proactive, and that I cover that in the 14 steps with all of these booklets in there. That's the playbook for beginners. And specifically, I'd mentioned one of the case studies, that the fail point. Wow, the fail point's so critical, right? If we're getting 8% to adopt, let's look at Laura Lee here. Well, for that 8%, this is even before the checkout strategies were adopted, right? It's kind of when we both dreamed of a day when the app was the silver bullet. Even for the 8%, look what happened. And when I see this number, this is what drives me every day. Say, guys, let's help shops. Well, we know the app does this already. let's help them though improve the adoption rate so that rather than only 8% getting a 50% annual spend increase, why is that not 25, 30, 40%? And have the customer feel good on the way out the door because they're VIP. So it's not just a matter of dollars and cents. This is providing real value, service history, upcoming appointments, the ability to chat live in the app with your team. These are real value points that they can't get in the other apps. And so it all comes together. And I get a lot of people, as they look at this number and say, I just feel like if I hadn't seen this slide, all you're trying to get me to do, Jeremy, is make it better for my customers, and you're not worried about my shop. And this is to prove that we are worried about your shop. We don't want you investing in an app without understanding how you could get a positive ROI. So I am worried about it. I'm worried about shops that want apps only as a toy. My great concern is that if you get an app, at least get a conversation started with us where we could at least talk through the vision and the scope of using an app to grow your revenue. And that's where David made sure that really, rather than just being informative, and I hope this was an informative session, that there were some next steps or direct actions you could take for really a way for us and Shop-Ware users to unite a little bit. And to start with that, it's on the download beginner playbook. So that's there for you. I've got a URL to go to. And from there, many people are concerned, right? If you can see the revenue numbers, of course, you go, well, the only way I can calculate an ROI is I have to know the cost. So we've made that easy. That answer is really built based on your specifications. So if you looked at it as a spectrum, toy or tool, well, you're going to land somewhere in there. You don't have to use all of our features. So much of what we do is dynamic. It's modules. You can turn them on or off. So as you go through that build quote module, you'll find where you're going to land, where you want to accept an app and use an app and attempt to disrupt your customers' behavior. So that app build quote tool will help with that. And then for some shops, neither one of those sound interesting. You just have maybe a couple real, everyone has a different starting point on apps. Maybe you don't use them personally and but yet you're curious about the next couple questions that I haven't hit today. It's easy to book a 5-minute discovery call with Stepper. And she's addicted to apps. She's one of our App Ninja specialists. So you can book a 5-minute call with her. She'll call you at the time you pick and kind of just make sure we hit those initial questions, see if there's even something extra that perhaps we can bring to light. David, I do appreciate you having me on. That was where I got to the end over here.
Yeah, that was great. Awesome. We're definitely glad to have you on board as well. There are just a couple questions that have come in from some Shop-Ware users.
Okay.
If I have an app and I have my appointments like in Shop-Ware, do those appointments and confirmations and all of that sync between the app and Shop-Ware? Or would I need to like put those in? Do you guys have an integration sort of that you can speak to?
Yes, the integration is a tier 1 rather than tier 2. So I hear those terms used a lot. That's how I'd answer that question. So it's a tier 1 integration in that the entries in Shop-Ware become visible to your user. And then user interaction, what that does is that prompts the staff back at the shop to then interact again with Shop-Ware. So we're not writing back into Shop-Ware databases.
Got it. And then what about vehicle service history? Does that get pulled from Shop-Ware and pushed into the app?
Yeah, and that's great. That's one of the ones. Yes, it does. And that excites me because then the customer, rather than having to even create their own vehicle for starters, right? They had to go find their VIN number, put in a profile. When that vehicle information comes over, if you use our STAR program, they're now engaged to enter in a photo, update their estimated daily mileage, access recall. Do they want recall push notifications sent to your app? Do they want to check the OEM maintenance schedule? Do they want to set their own personal reminders outside of your traditional CRM? So now you have this real interaction point, and then they can tag each visit. And so for us people that want all information in one place right at our fingertips, here's that opportunity for them to, and now that's going to be locked in their mind. They're going to have their vehicle with their previous history already tagged and reminders set. Google and Facebook apps are not doing that for your customer. And that is a huge leg up.
That's awesome. That makes a lot of sense.
And David, David, have you seen that in a lot of shops? I'm sure you have. We see that tagline across there that says the true dealer alternative, right?
Yeah.
Have you heard of that?
Yes.
And that's where I feel like an app really puts us on almost a better par. Because if you think about your local dealership, even their apps, they're competing against themselves. If you're a Nissan dealership, you've got the Nissan app, which Nissan wants the customer to have. Well, the dealership doesn't necessarily want that, right? These are franchise, own their own Nissan franchise. They want that Nissan customer to come back to their service department. So you have a built-in battle over there between the manufacturer and the dealer's apps, and they're fighting it out. And so, and rather than just considering sharing, and then you have the independent come along and say, well, we're the true dealer alternative. Well, talk about, we've got the same tools then now, right?
Yeah.
Now the customer doesn't have to access the Nissan app to get the OEM and the recalls. You're giving it to them.
Makes a lot of sense. You had spoken earlier about like a rewards program and stuff, but you didn't really get kind of too into it. Could you talk a little bit more about how the rewards program is built into the app?
Okay, yeah. So rewards, I mean, when people ask rewards, I hear things like stamps. Whether you had the old MobileSoft apps, where you can just stamp on there. I've heard people mention the loyalty punch cards. I've heard of some of the programs that send out rebate checks. So, or even think like I've mentioned in here, Costco with a membership. You're not even walking into Costco without that Costco card. So when I get asked about rewards, I give this super long, annoying answer, to be honest, because how we view it, and we've built it into the app, is total flexibility between stars, between rewards based on visits. Also, then I could touch on rebates. So that, remember when I'd said, let's get that app open tomorrow. We don't want them to open it once and then never have a future engagement until they already got stolen by the competitor 3 months. That's where that reward rebate program really helps, because within 24 hours, they're going to get in right in your app, a notification to swipe and unlock a reward, leave a little review, and now they have dollars sitting in their app. So, and then to go one step further, why would I want my customer walking away without a membership access point to know how can I do business easier, more efficiently, and more affordably with your shop? Well, we have a flexible membership program. You can choose the price. It can be set to auto renew. You can put custom prepaid packages in there. It can also be with a card on file so that your team doesn't even have to manage the process. The customer is along the way prompted to enroll, re-enroll, access their rewards, all within the app. We're not asking the staff to do anything extra. There's one transaction point that happens, and it's back to that question, are you a member? Asked at the checkout. And so if the customer is, they're going to turn their phone around and show that one screen. So the advisor will see what they have to access, what rewards, what coupons, what rebates, and if they're a member or not. So yeah, that is a great question. I wish we had more time. I would just keep going, but I'll stop there.
No, that's great. That's all I have for you, Jeremy. I really appreciate you spending some time with us today and working with me on this webinar over the last couple months. We'll make this recording available on our YouTube channel so that it can be accessed, and I'll send you a copy as well if you want to distribute it. And if any other future questions come in or inquiries, I'll make sure to pass them all your information. But I really appreciate your time today. And with that, we'll end this broadcast and hope everyone has a good rest of the day.
Okay, thanks for having me, David.
Yeah,
and the whole Shop-Ware community.
All right,
Bye.
Take care, Jeremy. Bye-bye.